the first reading I ever did was to read the charts. You go into the neighborhood record store. Each record store had their top 10 charts.
A 15-year-old girl from the projects recorded a response to a popular song in one take, and it changed music forever. This is just one of the crazy stories behind the forgotten hip-hop hits of the 1980s. These aren't the artists you know. These are the ones who burned bright and then faded away fast. One Kurtis Blow, The Breaks.
Clap your hands, everybody, if you got what it takes.
In 1980, an artist named Kurtis Blow released a track called The Breaks. This song was a game changer for a few huge reasons. First off, it was one of the very first rap songs to get played on mainstream radio stations across the country. Up until then, hip-hop was mostly an underground thing you only heard at parties in New York City. The Breaks changed all of that. The song itself is super catchy, with Kurtis Blow listing off all the different kinds of breaks in life, both good and bad. It has a funky bass line and a simple, repetitive chorus that was easy for everyone to sing along to. Here's the real wow factor. The Breaks became the first rap single in history to be certified gold, which means it sold over 500,000 copies. That was a massive deal back then and proved that hip-hop could be a real moneymaker. But the thing nobody tells you is, while Kurtis Blow was a true pioneer, the music world changed fast. As hip-hop became more about different styles and sounds, his party-style rap faded a bit, and The Breaks remained his one and only giant hit that broke into the Hot 100 chart. The next song on our list started the biggest and wildest feud in early hip-hop history, all because of a girl named Roxanne. To Roxanne Shante, Roxanne's Revenge.
Here's Roxanne Shante and Roxanne's Revenge.
Get ready for one of the craziest stories in music. In 1984, a rap group named UTFO released a popular song called Roxanne, Roxanne. The song was about a girl named Roxanne who wouldn't give them the time of day. Well, a 15-year-old girl from the Queensbridge projects in New York named Lolita Shante Gooden heard that song and thought it was disrespectful. So she decided to make a response. Calling herself Roxanne Shante, she went into a studio and, in one take, recorded Roxanne's Revenge. The track was raw, gritty, and funny. She tore into the members of UTFO with clever rhymes and a whole lot of attitude. The thing that nobody tells you is what happened next. The song became a massive underground hit almost overnight. It was so popular that it started something called the Roxanne Wars. Suddenly, dozens and dozens of other rappers started making answer records. There was The Real Roxanne, Roxanne's a Man, and even Roxanne's Doctor. It's estimated that over 100 different songs came out as part of this musical battle. Roxanne Shante was a teenage superstar, but her career was short. She released an album later on, but nothing ever matched the fire and excitement of her first big hit. She had her moment and then stepped away from the music business while she was still young. Roxanne Shante used her own voice to get famous, but our next duo used a sample from a totally different kind of band to create their one big smash. 3, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Genius Rap.
Instead of always listening to a rapper, you went there to party with him.
In the early 80s, hip-hop was all about sampling, which means taking a little piece of another song and using it to make a new beat. Two artists who called themselves Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde did this in a very clever way. In 1981, they took a piece from a super popular new wave song called Genius of Love by a band named Tom Tom Club. They used that song's bouncy and fun beat to create their own track, Genius Rap. The result was pure magic. Genius Rap was smooth, cool, and perfect for dancing. The lyrics were all about being smart and clever, fitting their group name perfectly. The song was a hit, climbing all the way to number 31 on the Billboard charts, which was a big deal for a rap group at that time. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde were known for their flashy style. They would often perform wearing fancy suits and hats, looking more like old-school singers than rappers. But here's the kicker. Even though Genius Rap was a huge success, they could never quite capture that magic again. They released other songs, but none of them had the same special spark. Eventually, the duo went their separate ways, leaving Genius Rap as their one and only memorable contribution to the hip-hop history books. This duo made a fun party track, but the next artist on our list made a song so tough and gritty that it helped create a whole new style of rap music. 4. Schoolie D, PSK. What does it mean? Let's take a trip to Philadelphia, where an artist named Schoolie D was about to change the game forever. In 1985, he released a song called PSK, What Does It Mean? The letters PSK stood for Parkside Killers, a crew from his neighborhood. This song was different from the party raps that were popular at the time. It was dark, loud, and told stories about the tough side of street life. The beat was made with a booming drum machine that sounded like nothing else on the radio. Many people are crazy about this track because it's considered by music historians to be one of the very first gangster rap songs ever recorded. Schoolie D wasn't talking about dancing or having fun. He was talking about surviving in a dangerous place. The song was so raw and real that it became a huge underground hit, especially in Philly and New York. The thing that many overlooked is that this style was too intense for the mainstream back then. Radio stations wouldn't play it. Schoolie D became a legend in the underground scene and influenced countless rappers who came after him, but he never had a major chart-topping hit. PSK was his powerful opening statement, but he remained a hero to a smaller, dedicated group of fans. Schoolie D made his mark with a gritty sound, but our next song came from a duo who would become legends, though this early hit is often overshadowed by their more famous work. 5. Eric B. and Rakim, My Melody.
Turn up the bass, check out my melody, hand out a cigar. I'm letting knowledge be born, and my name's the R.
Before they were known as one of the greatest hip-hop duos of all time, Eric B. and Rakim were just getting started. In 1987, they released their first album, Paid in Full, and on that album was a track called My Melody. This song was mind-blowing for its time. Rakim's rapping style was completely new. He rapped in a smooth, calm, and complicated way that was more like a jazz musician playing a saxophone than a rapper shouting on a microphone. He used big words and complex rhymes that nobody had ever heard before. The beat, made by Eric B., was just as amazing. It was a dark, hypnotic loop that perfectly matched Rakim's cool delivery. My Melody was pure, uncut hip-hop, and it showed the world that rapping could be a true art form. But here's the thing. The album also had other huge songs on it, like Paid in Full and I Know You Got Soul, which became massive hits with music videos and radio play. Because of that, My Melody often gets forgotten by casual fans. It didn't have a catchy chorus or a danceable beat, so it wasn't a big radio single. It was a masterpiece for true hip-hop heads, but it remains a deep cut from a legendary group, a flash of genius before their star exploded. Rakim was a genius with words, but our next track features two artists who were geniuses with their mouths, creating an entire song with no instruments at all. 6. Doug E. Fresh and Slick Rick, La Dee Da Dee.
I woke up around 10 o'clock in the morning, gave myself up.
Imagine making a hit song with no instruments, just your voice. That's exactly what Doug E. Fresh and Slick Rick did in 1985 with their classic track, La Dee Da Dee. This song is a masterclass in beatboxing. Doug E. Fresh, known as the Human Beatbox, created all the drum sounds, bass lines, and sound effects using only his mouth. It was, to put it mildly, incredible. On top of this amazing vocal beat, a rapper with a British accent named Slick Rick told a funny and wild story. La Dee Da Dee was actually the B-side to their other big hit, The Show. But for many fans, La Dee Da Dee was the real star. It was so unique and catchy that it became one of the most sampled and referenced songs in music history. The thing nobody tells you is just how influential it was. Lines and melodies from this song have been used by superstars like Snoop Dogg, the Notorious B.I.G., and Miley Cyrus. It's a foundational piece of hip-hop. But after this 1-2 punch, the group's magic started to fade. Slick Rick went on to have a successful solo career, but Doug E. Fresh never had another hit as big as the ones he made with Rick. Their partnership was a moment of pure creative genius that couldn't be repeated. This hit was made with just human voices, but the next song on our list mixed hip-hop with a whole new style of dance music to create a sound no one had heard before. 7. Lisa Lisa and Cult Jam Fteed Full Force. I Wonder If I Take You Home. In the mid-'80s, a new sound was bubbling up in New York City called freestyle. It was a type of electronic dance music with a lot of Latin influence. A group called Lisa Lisa and Cult Jam, with the help of the production team Full Force, decided to mix this new freestyle sound with hip-hop. The result was their 1985 breakout hit, I Wonder If I Take You Home. The song was an instant smash in dance clubs. It had a driving electronic beat that you just had to move to. Lisa Lisa's voice was strong and confident as she sang about the tough decision of whether to bring a new boyfriend home. The song also featured rap verses, which was a fresh new twist for a dance track. It was the perfect blend of pop, dance, and rap. The song was so popular that it even crossed over to the Billboard Hot 100 chart. But here's the catch. As the group got more popular, they started to move away from the hip-hop elements. Their later hits, like Head to Toe and Lost in Emotion, were much more pop and R&B. They found bigger success by changing their sound, which left their first, more street-style hit as a unique and often forgotten starting point in their career. Lisa Lisa's track was a hit in the clubs, but our next artist made a song so loud and aggressive it was designed to be blasted out of boomboxes on the street corner. 8. LL Cool J, Rock the Bells. Today, everyone knows LL Cool J as a famous actor and a music superstar. But back in 1985, he was a teenager from Queens with a whole lot of confidence and a booming voice. One of his earliest hits was a song called Rock the Bells, and it was pure, raw energy. The beat was made of hard-hitting drums and screeching sounds that were designed to be as loud as possible. It was the kind of song that would make car alarms go off. On the track, LL Cool J raps with incredible aggression and skill. He's not telling a story, he's just bragging about how he's the best rapper in the world. He was a new kind of rapper, one who was in your face and ready to battle anyone. Rock the Bells became an anthem for a new generation of hip-hop fans who wanted something harder and more powerful. But here is the thing that many people forget. LL Cool J's career was so long and had so many massive hits, especially his famous love ballads, that his early, super-aggressive tracks like Rock the Bells are often overlooked. It was a song that helped define the sound of Def Jam Records and showed the world a new kind of rap star, but it lives in the shadow of his later, more famous work. LL Cool J packed a ton of energy into a short song, but the next group on our list did the opposite, creating a rap song so long it was like a musical marathon. 9. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Super Rappin'.
It's like the trouble sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep them going up.
Before their legendary hit. The Message changed hip-hop with its serious social commentary. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five were famous for something else, their amazing live shows. In 1979, they tried to capture that live energy on a record with a song called Super Rappin'. and what a record it was. What many overlooked is the sheer length of this song. The original version was nearly 12 minutes long. That was completely unheard of for a single at that time. The track was a non-stop showcase of the group's skills. Each of the 5 MCs, including the legendary Melle Mel, took turns rapping with incredible energy and charisma. Grandmaster Flash provided the funky, disco-infused beat that kept the party going. It was like listening to a recording of the best block party you've ever been to. But because of its crazy length, radio stations had no idea what to do with it. They couldn't just play a 12-minute song. The song became a cult classic among early hip-hop fans, but it wasn't a mainstream hit. It was a brilliant, sprawling piece of music that showed what the group could do, but it was too big and bold for the world at the time, leaving it as a forgotten piece of their amazing history. This group of men from the East Coast made an epic track, but our next forgotten hit comes from a pair of women on the West Coast who had a powerful message to share. 11. The Conscious Daughters. Funky Expedition.
Oh, you know that we got the funky track that's fat. But anyway, it's my turn.
As the 80s were coming to a close, 2 women from Oakland, California were ready to make some noise. They called themselves the Conscious Daughters, and their names were CMG and the Special One. In 1989, they dropped a single called Funky Expedition. This song was a breath of fresh air. It had a funky, laid-back West Coast beat that was perfect for cruising in your car. But the lyrics were anything but laid back. CMG and the Special One were rapping about being strong, independent women who didn't need a man to feel powerful. They were smart, funny, and had a message of female empowerment that was ahead of its time in the male-dominated world of hip-hop. Funky Expedition got some airplay on the radio and became a local hit in the Bay Area. The Conscious Daughters were praised for their skills and their positive message. But you see, the thing that nobody tells you is how hard it was for female rappers to get mainstream attention back then. Despite their talent, the group struggled to break through nationally. They released a great album, but it didn't sell as well as it should have. Funky Expedition remains a hidden gem, a funky and powerful statement from 2 women who deserved more shine. These women from Oakland made a regional splash, but another group from the same area had a huge local hit about street life before their label troubles got in the way. 12-4-15, Lifestyle of a Gangsta. Let's stay in the Bay Area for another forgotten classic. In 1986, a group named 415, which is the area code for San Francisco, released a track that defined the local scene. The song was called Lifestyle of a Gangsta, and it was a raw look at the realities of street life in their city. The group was led by a rapper named Richie Rich, who would later become a Bay Area legend. The song had a hard, funky beat and told stories about the dangers and temptations of the streets. It was a powerful piece of storytelling that resonated with a lot of people in their community. Lifestyle of a Gangsta became a huge hit in the Bay Area, getting constant play on local radio and at parties. It was the anthem of the streets for a time. But here's where the story takes a turn. What many overlooked is that the group was on a small independent record label. They had this massive local hit, but the label didn't have the money or the power to promote it across the country. The group also had disagreements with the label, which eventually led to them breaking up. Richie Rich went on to have a solo career, but the group 415 and their one big hit faded into history. This group's hit was all about a serious lifestyle, but our next forgotten track was all about letting loose and having a wild time at a party. 13. MCEs and Troop, Get Retarded. Now, the title of this next song from 1988 is a bit shocking today, as the main word in it has become a very hurtful insult. But back then, it was used in a very different way, simply meaning to get wild and crazy on the dance floor. The song is called Get Retarded by a duo from Philadelphia named MCEZ and Troop. This track was a pure, high-energy party anthem. The beat was fast and frantic, designed to make you jump out of your seat and dance. The lyrics were simple and all about having fun. MCEZ rapped with a ton of energy, telling everyone at the party to let go and just go wild. The song became a big regional hit, especially in Philly and up and down the East Coast. It was the kind of track that a DJ would play late at night to get the whole crowd hyped up. But here is the thing that many people don't know. MCEZ is actually a very famous rapper who you might know by a different name. A few years later, he changed his name to Craig Mack and had a massive hit called Flava in Ya Ear on Bad Boy Records. Because of that later success, his early work as MCEZ is almost completely forgotten, and this party track remains a relic of a very specific time and place. This song was a regional party starter, but our next track took a specific sound from the West Coast and blasted it all over the country. 14, Rodney O and Joe Cooley, Everlasting Bass. In the late 80s, a new sound was taking over the West Coast, bass music. This was music made for cars with huge speakers in the trunk. It was all about deep, booming bass that you could feel in your chest. Two pioneers of this sound were a rapper named Rodney O and a DJ named Joe Cooley. In 1988, they released the ultimate bass anthem, a song called Everlasting Bass. The track starts with a classic sample and then drops into one of the deepest and most powerful bass lines ever put on a record. It was a masterpiece of production. Joe Cooley's scratches were sharp and perfect, and Rodney O's raps were fun and catchy. The song was a massive hit, especially in California and the South, where car culture was huge. People would drive around all day just blasting this one song. But here is where the story gets a little sad. The duo of Rodney O and Joe Cooley were a perfect team, but they couldn't keep the magic going forever. Joe Cooley, who was a true genius on the turntables, decided to step away from the music industry to focus on his family. Without his partner, Rodney O continued to make music, but it was never quite the same. Everlasting Bass remains their one perfect earth-shaking hit. This duo created a bass classic, but our next group is famous for starting a feud and then trying to reclaim their spot with a track that just couldn't measure up. 15, UTFO, Lethal. Remember the group UTFO? We talked about them earlier. They were the ones who made the song Roxanne, Roxanne, which started the whole Roxanne Wars. After that whole musical battle, the group found themselves in a tough spot. They were famous, but they were famous for a beef that they kinda lost. To put it mildly, they needed a comeback. In 1987, they released a new album called Lethal, with a title track that was meant to show everyone they were still a force to be reckoned with. Lethal was a much tougher and more aggressive song than their earlier work. They were trying to show that they could hang with the new school of harder-sounding rappers. The song was produced by the legendary rock and rap group Full Force, and it had a powerful, driving beat. The members of UTFO, the Kangol Kid, the Educated Rapper, and Dr. Ice all delivered strong performances. But here's the thing. The world had moved on. Hip-hop was changing so fast, and UTFO's style was starting to sound a little dated. The song was a minor hit, but it didn't bring them back to the top. The group started to have internal problems and eventually splintered, leaving Lethal as a forgotten attempt to recapture their past glory. This group tried to make a comeback on record, but the next group on our list were kings of the stage who, for some reason, could never make a hit record. 16. Cold Crush Brothers. Cold Crush Brothers. Theme. In the early days of hip-hop, before rappers were making millions of dollars, the most important thing was your live show. And nobody had a better live show than the Cold Crush Brothers. This group from the Bronx was legendary. They had 4 MCs who would weave their rhymes together like a perfectly choreographed dance routine. They had routines, harmonies, and an energy that no other group could touch. They were the undisputed kings of the live rap battle. In 1984, they tried to capture that magic on a song, their theme song, which was released on a soundtrack for a movie about hip-hop. The song was good, showcasing their amazing group chemistry and lyrical skill. But here's the kicker. For some reason, their incredible live energy never fully translated to their recorded music. They were famous for their performances, and people would trade bootleg tapes of their live shows like they were gold. Yet, they never signed a major record deal and never had a big radio hit. What many overlooked is that they were a live phenomenon. Their theme song is a cool piece of history, but it doesn't do justice to the power they had on stage. They are legends of the art form, but they remain a one-hit wonder in a way, with their fame mostly living on through old tapes and stories. This group was famous for their live shows, but our next group from Harlem had one shining moment on vinyl before their crew fell apart. 17 Boogie Boys, City Life. Let's head to another famous New York neighborhood, Harlem. In 1985, a trio known as the Boogie Boys released a song that perfectly captured the feeling of their city. The song was called City Life. It was a smooth and funky track that told a story about a day in the life of a young man in the city, from riding the subway to trying to talk to a pretty girl. It was relatable, catchy, and had a great groove. The song was produced by the legendary producer Ted Currier, and it had a polished, radio-friendly sound. City Life became a big hit, climbing the charts and getting the Boogie Boys a lot of attention. They seemed like they were on their way to becoming major stars. But the thing nobody tells you is that success can sometimes cause problems. The group, made up of Boogie Knight, Romeo J.D., and Lil Rahim, started to have disagreements. There were arguments about money and creative direction. Sadly, these internal splits caused the group to break up not long after their biggest hit. They left behind one classic song that perfectly captured a moment in time, a snapshot of city life in the 80s. This group's song was a snapshot of the city, but the next artist on our list was a pioneer from the 70s who made a brief comeback in the 80s with one last great song. 18 Spoonie G. The show Spoonie G is a name that every old-school hip-hop fan knows. He was one of the very first rappers to ever record a song back in the 1970s. He was a true pioneer of the art form. But by the mid-80s, the music had changed a lot, and many of the original pioneers were being forgotten. In 1985, Spoonie G made a comeback with a song that was also called The Show, released around the same time as the Doug E. Fresh hit with the same name. This version of The Show was produced by the famous R&B and funk star Teddy Pendergrass's band. It had a smooth, funky, and sophisticated sound. On the track, Spoonie G showed that he still had the skills. His voice was smooth as silk, and his storytelling was top-notch. The song was a cool, laid-back jam that proved the old school could still hang with the new school. But here's the tough part of the story. While the song was a critical success and loved by true fans, it didn't become a massive commercial hit. Shortly after, Spoonie G began to deal with some serious health issues that forced him to step away from the music business for good. The Show was his last great moment in the spotlight, a final bow from one of hip-hop's founding fathers. This artist tried to blend old and new, but our next group created a huge debate by mixing rap with bubblegum pop, and some people did not like it one bit. 19. Whistle. Just Buggin'. In 1986, a group named Whistle came out with a song that sounded like nothing else in hip-hop. The song was called Why Must There Be Brochures, but everyone just knows it by its incredibly catchy chorus, Just Buggin'. The song had a bouncy, pop-friendly beat and a melody that you couldn't get out of your head. It was a fun, light-hearted track about the funny and annoying things that happen in everyday life. The song was a huge crossover hit. Pop radio stations that never played rap music were playing this song all the time. The group, with their matching outfits and clean-cut image, became pop stars for a minute. But here's the thing. Many serious hip-hop fans did not like Whistle at all. They felt that the group was too soft and that their pop sound was a betrayal of hip-hop's street roots. They were dismissed by many as a sellout group. This created a big debate in the hip-hop community about what was real rap. Because of this, even though Just Buggin' was a massive hit, the group couldn't shake that soft reputation. They released other songs, but none of them caught on, and they quickly faded away, leaving behind one of the catchiest and most controversial pop rap songs of the decade. Whistle's hit was simple and fun, but our final track comes from a rapper who went in the opposite direction, using complex stories and myths to build his one-of-a-kind rap classic. 20 King's Son, Aladdin's on a Rampage. As the 80s drew to a close, a rapper from the Bronx named King's Son dropped a track that was as epic as a movie. The song was called Aladdin's on a Rampage, and it was a masterpiece of storytelling. King's Son used the story of Aladdin and the magic lamp as a metaphor for his own life and his skills as a rapper. He wasn't just bragging, he was creating a whole mythological world in his song. The beat was powerful and cinematic, with horns and dramatic sounds that made it feel larger than life. King's Son's voice was deep and commanding, like a king telling a story to his court. The song was incredibly creative and showed how rap could be used to tell complex and imaginative tales. It was a hit with hip-hop fans who appreciated deep lyrics and powerful production. But what many overlooked is that this style of rap was not made for mainstream radio. It was too complex and too long. King's Son was a brilliant lyricist, but his style was more suited for the underground than for the pop charts. He continued to release music on his own, but he never had another song that captured the public's imagination like his mythological Rampage, leaving it as a forgotten treasure for true rap connoisseurs.